Hey folks, welcome to WebdriverIO Wednesdays. This is the live stream that I edit and put up on YouTube sometimes too. Going over WebdriverIO topics. Today's topic is this issue right here, WebdriverIO and automated accessibility testing. There's this really cool tool out there built for testing your websites in an automated fashion for accessibility issues. It doesn't check everything for accessibility, because you can't really do that from an automated standpoint. You do have to have a lot of manual testing. It's the same way with like user experience testing. You want to test all the different flows as an actual person trying it out versus just a machine looking for certain things. But there is this Axe WebdriverJS, which is an extension of the Axe Builder or the Axe accessibility tool, which is part of a suite of tools that DQ Labs, I think that's how you pronounce their name, DQ Labs, they put together. And we are going to take a look at Axe Core, which is the engine for it. So I've got a basic directory here that I've created. I need to run an install on it, but it's one of the previous directories I have going. If I run install, it's going to start installing all my node packages for me. It's got basic test in it. I'm just going to use it to get this Axe Core going on. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's going to be fairly simple to do, but we'll have to see how it goes. Everything that I think is fairly simple to do turns out to be a big pain in the long run. So normally to run this, you would just load this script on the page here and then try it out. So that's in Axe Core and then Axe Min. So it's actually in the root directory. What if we go back to WebdriverJS and see what they do? They use Axe Builder. What does Axe Builder do? I'm guessing it loads that script onto the page for you and everything. And the tricky part with that is they expect you to have access to this driver element, and then you do Axe Builder and you pass in the driver. And I'm wondering if I can do that with the browser object instead. I'm going to lib and then inject. So let's see what inject does. Find frames and inject. So this will go through. So this is driver, which could be that browser object in WebdriverIO. Find elements, anything with the tag name of iframe. And then in those, you're going to switch to it. And you're just going to keep switching, like going down the rabbit hole again and again and again until you finally get to this point where you want to execute a script. Script is the file that I was looking for that hopefully I'll be able to find. Find frames and inject. So that's what's going to inject it. Let's see. My script is the Axe source that gets required in, plus the configuration source, which must be a config that you can set yourself. So you execute the script, find frames. Okay, so it does this on the main container, and then it will go into the child frames and add them in there as well. For our needs, I'm just going to do it on the main container because we're not going to have frames on our site right now. But if you have like iframes and stuff like that, you'd want it in there. I want to do npm install save Axe Core, was it? Let's see, Axe Core. And now that I have that saved, I can close that out and hopefully things are going to go a little bit faster. Let's see, did it install yet? Okay, so that was my test. This was my installation. Okay, so it's installed. It's installed to my node modules Axe Core directory, so we can actually pull that in. So what I'm going to do is jump in Sublime Text, my test. There's one called right click. I'm just going to do axe.js. So now I've got my axe.js, and I'm going to do my describe. Test function should return results. I'm basically going to repeat what they did, which is inject the script. And before that, I need to load the Axe Core script, inject the script, run inside browser, and get the results. And then parse through the results and convert them to chai format. So it's going to be using Mocha and chai for the assertions to make sure that everything either passes or fails in our test. So if you haven't seen my other videos, I normally have a before hook in here that I will use to load in the chai library and the expect library. I was actually expecting it to be in there, but it's not. So I might not use chai. So load the axe script. So I don't know if you saw this on here. They have this require axecore.source. We are actually going to do that ourselves. So let, what do they call it? Axe source equals require axecore.source. And that's going to give us the source code that we need to inject into our page. And then next, they do some configuration. We are actually going to skip this part because I don't want to mess with that just yet. I may mess with that in a little bit. So basically the script is just axe source and that's it. So I want to execute script. Now I need to jump over to the WebdriverIO docs and see if execute script is a thing. So it's basically the same thing. Execute script, basically the same thing. Do we need to pass in any arguments into it? Execute script. Doesn't look like it. Doesn't look like we pass any special information into it. So all we're going to do is browser.execute. So this is going to load the script in. So that's our first one. And we are running this in sync mode. So that way we don't have to worry about promises and all that. It uses the sync package. So we don't have to say like await browser.execute. Nothing like that. And I need to spell execute correctly. And then I'm going to do another browser.execute. And this is going to be my custom command that I use for actually running it. So this loads the script, gets it ready to run, and this is what actually runs the script and returns our results. So I'm going to do a let results equal that. So browser execute is going to paste whatever I return to these results, and then we can do something like an assert using Node's assert library. Node has a default assertion library similar to Chai or Jasmine if you're familiar with that. Okay, so inside we need to run axe on our site and then return the results. So to run axe on our site, I'm going to come back over here and you can see we just do this axe.run. The only thing is that this seems to be a callback. It makes it a little bit more difficult because I don't think this execute command is going to wait for that callback before closing out. And so we're not going to get our results in time. Run axe on our site. So that's as simple as axe.run. And you notice this axe, where does that come from? Well, this comes from executing this script. So when you execute this script, it loads this axe global variable into the browser, into your actual site that you're testing. So we're going to go to this API and let's see there, axe.run. It can return a promise. Let's see, I want to see if I can run it in synchronous mode instead of asynchronous because I don't really care that it's synchronous in this instance because I want to wait. I want to wait for the whole thing to run because that's the whole point of doing this. So the context, you can pass in some information about what you're going to test. Here we want to test the entire site. We've got options, not going to worry about that. An optional callback function, which makes me happy because I think that would mean that we can do this in synchronous mode possibly. So that's all on options. Callback parameter, return a promise. This callback was not defined. It will return a promise. So basically this was saying that if you're running this on a browser that doesn't have a promise library built in natively, then this is probably going to fail. So that'd be kind of a pain. So basically I want to hold off returning any results until this has completed. So I'm going to do that and then results, and return those. And I would do a return like that. So I return the result that get passed in from the results. That's a little bit confusing. So what I'm going to say is let results equal to axe.that. And then actually run. Return, run. Return, run. Let's check out Firefox await. Async await. So I want to see if Firefox has support for this asynchronous function. So an asynchronous function allows you to write a function that's going to run things asynchronously. In other words, it's going to do the callbacks or the promises, except you can actually wait for those things. So here we have a function that returns a promise. This promise is going to be similar to our axe core object and what it does. And after 2 seconds, it will resolve it. So this takes 2 seconds to resolve. And here you see there's that await command. So this await is what I really want to use in order to get Firefox, when it runs this function, to wait for all that information to finish. Now the trouble is, add 1. I can define the asynchronous function, but that's always going to return a promise. I don't know how I can tell Firefox to wait on that asynchronous function without another asynchronous function. So it's kind of wrapping around the same issue. So I got to figure out how to move around this. I think what I'm going to do is I want to see how Firefox, or we're going to try this in Chrome actually, because we already have Chrome up. If I do this, so that returns a promise, and there's that first log after 40 seconds. I hate when that happens. Yeah, so wait runs first, and then the console log runs. So what stinks about that is it's going to return the results before the axe run has completed. So that's kind of tough to get around. Not really sure what to do there. See, I thought this was going to be super simple, and it turns out it's not. How did they do it? How do they do it in the WebdriverJS? They execute the script, find frames and inject the script in the driver. All that's doing is injecting it. So what is it that does the actual test? Because they're probably going to have to deal with this same issue as well. Analyze, execute asynchronous script. Oh, is that a thing? Let's see, did they define it? They do. Well, no. Sorry, that's in their test. No, they don't. So is there a way of executing a script that's asynchronous? There is ExecuteAsync. Oh my gosh. Well, that's going to help a ton. That's perfect. So what does it do? Inject a JavaScript. You do a script arguments, and there's a done callback that gets passed in. Okay, I think this is going to be perfect. Perfect for what we need. We need execute script. We're not going to take any other arguments. We're just going to take this done. And then we could try and do a promise-based way of doing it, but it's going to be easy enough just to call done when we're done. I don't even have to pass in the results or anything. It should just pass those results straight to that done function, that done callback, and then done. If we look back at the example here, you see the result gets passed in from the done function. So we then take that, and what I'm going to do is just real quick console log my results, and I'm going to let that run. I'm going to step out for a second because I got to go take care of some family stuff, and then come on up. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. Looks like script is not defined because I didn't pass in the right script. That was fun. Let's run that again. Okay, so it's running. Ran the script, and it returned a browser status. Maybe that wasn't all that useful there. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into here and make sure that this is actually running. So to make sure that the source is actually set up. So to do that, I also need to increase my timeout. 2 minutes is short, but or it's long, not quite long enough. So I'll just do this crazy high number, which should be long enough. So I'm gonna run my npm test again, and with that running, I need to load the page. It's not actually loading the page, so that's probably why nothing is happening. It's the simple things that you forget to do. The very simple things. Okay, there's the URL. It's going to pause. Now I can go back into my console. Let's see if that stuff is still in there. axe.run, and we'll just do that same thing. And actually, if I just pass in console.log, that should log whatever results come back. No response, null. So it looks like it did some stuff. And then here's that response that there's some violations, some passes, some incomplete tests, and inapplicable tests. Okay, so that should be what I wanted. And if I come back over here and hit Control-C twice, it's going to finish running this. And we're still stuck with the same issue that it didn't give us the value back. Okay, why was that? So I'm going to move this browser debug down here. And then I'm going to do the done with the results. But before I do that, I'm going to just assign the results to a global variable. Window.results is equal to results. That way I can inspect the page at the point after it's ran all this to see if the results have anything in them and if my problem is with this or not. So, and I'm going to run my test again. I'm wondering if I need to return anything from execute.async. Well, I don't think so because it does take that done argument, but maybe I'm not getting that set up correctly. So there's the async. It looks like it actually ran it at that instance. So because it actually jumped down on the page, which is what it did on the other time. So now if I go to my console, you see here those same errors that we were getting. And if I hit results, I get null results, which is kind of interesting. In theory, I should have gotten results from this. But if I run this, and then instead of done, I just do a console.log, I get null results again. So what's going on there? Because I did get results the first time I ran it. Result.value, that could be a thing, is that I probably want to be doing results.value. Although if you come back into here, you see that value is equal to null. So I definitely do want to be hitting the value, but that value should not be null. It should be whatever these results are. But it looks like these results aren't coming through. Maybe something I'm doing when I do window.results is bad. So we'll go back here and I'm going to run this again, except this time I'm going to just get rid of that line and run it. And that's still null. So there's two arguments that it takes, a null and then the results. So the first one must be something else. So I'm just calling this incorrectly is what's going on. So if I come back here, oh, the first one is an error. So if an error occurs doing it, it does, you throw the error. Otherwise, it returns the results. So that's what's going on there. So I need to update this to say error and results. And normally I would say, let's see, if error done error. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say if an error occurred, then go ahead and respond with that error information. And then we can handle that error information here. Okay, so I am too confident that this is going to work. So I'm going to take out that browser debug because I'm fairly certain that was what was going on. I was getting the error object back instead of the result object. And then also, I think there was something else I was doing wrong. Oh, it was the dot value. That was the issue. Is I was referencing the entire result, the async script thing, which returns an object instead of the results, which is what we want right here. Okay, and we would in here then do assert violations.length. So we want to see that the length, because violations is an array, I want to see that the length is equal to 0. So we would do assert.equal violations.length, which is our actual value, and then the expected value is 0. We would do something like that, and if not, it would throw an error there. There's a lot of other information that we probably want to get on here. What we could do is actually turn this into like a reporter, an accessibility reporter, so that basically I was going to show a message on there, but there's just going to be so many messages that you can throw. It's not a good place for it to be. So I'm going to make sure that this test fails, kind of clean this up a little bit, make sure that my assert is good. So I'm going to run that test one more time, and while I do that, I'm going to jump over to the Axe WebDriver and kind of see what they do. They configure it, then they do the callback, that's analyze, perform analysis, and retrieve those results. So I wonder if they don't actually report anything, they just kind of return it for you. Yeah, you get those results back, and you can do with it whatever you want to do with it at that point. It looks like they don't do any reporting or anything like that. Violations is not defined. Hey, of course it's not defined. I need to do results.violations. That was silly. Cannot read property length of undefined. So what did I do? Violations, and maybe it's just violation? Violations, and it's an array, so it should have that. Oh, I did that. I messed it up again. It should be results.value.violations.length. Whew, that is wordy. Keep forgetting that value. Okay, so those results did come back right here. So the expected 70 equals 0, so it failed. So that's where your assertion would come in, and you could actually come in to here and say, you can pass in a message. If we go back here, equal, and then I think you can pass in a message. Yeah, you can pass in a message saying expected no accessibility violations. And then that way, instead of just seeing 7 equals 0, which is kind of confusing, you would actually see that it says expected no accessibility violations. And okay, so that URL is in there in the chat room for you to check out and try it out. We've got our package JSON that has our test script in it, so you can run npm test, our configuration, basic configuration. It does use Selenium standalone. Oh, that timeout's still kind of high. That shouldn't really matter, Selenium standalone. And then finally our test here of axe.js. And basically we load the URL, execute the source, inject the script, and then load it. And then just expect things to not have any violations. So that is using Axe in a basic example. I think later on I'm going to do another video which is converting this into a service or a reporter, or maybe both. One using the service and one using the reporter and things like that. One final thing, I do have my course is up at learnwebdriverio.com. Any support you can provide there really helps keep these videos going. And it's just 50 videos on WebdriverIO. By supporting this course, you're able to support the videos that the free videos that I'm able to get going. Y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye.